everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Regina, and in this video we're going to talk about building your very own grow rack like this one so that you can start all of your plants for your garden from seed. You can maybe do a little bit of indoor gardening during the cooler months. However you want to do it, we're going to talk about setting that up so that you can do those things. All right, so the first thing that you need for a grow rack, of course, is a rack. So this one is 4 feet wide, and I want to say it's about 6 feet tall. I bought it at Target, and it works great. This is what it looks like. Give you a better angle. And this rack, this 4-foot one, was $80 when I bought it back in December or January. So when I purchased it, it was about $80. So that's the first step. You obviously need something to grow them on. Now this is pretty large. It can hold quite a bit of plants. One thing you want to keep in mind is that you do want to make sure that you get one that has adjustable shelves, because we're going to be attaching the lights to the shelves themselves. So the way that you adjust the distance between the light and the plants is by moving these shelves up and down. So if you get one that has fixed shelves, then you're going to have to be able to adjust the height of your light some other way, or be able to put something underneath the plants to lift them up closer. So, I mean, that's completely up to you, but it worked out really well for us to have this one with adjustable shelves. So I recommend it. Now, I do have another shelf. I have 2 of these, another grow rack, and the other one is actually 3 feet wide. Okay, so the reason why I have 2 is because I bought the 3-foot one first, and I thought that was going to be enough, and then it ended up not being enough space, so I ended up getting this 4-foot one. But had I started with this 4-foot rack, this probably would have been it that I purchased. I probably wouldn't have purchased another one, because I feel like I probably could have made this space work. Now, when it was almost time to get the plants outside, this was pretty full at one point when I had my cool weather stuff in and my warm weather stuff growing as well. So it was nice to have all the space, and I'll use it this year. But if I had to do it again, I'd probably just get the 1 rack. So I think for most gardeners, 1 rack will be enough. My garden is pretty big. I think I have about, I want to say 10 raised beds. Some of them are 4x8, some of them are 4x12. And then I have a big keyhole bed that's 12 by 12, but with, 8 feet cut out in the middle. I'll put some pictures up of some of the garden beds. So I have a pretty big garden. So on these grow racks, I grew anything that could have been grown from seed, I grew from seed. So I grew about, I want to say I had about 32 tomato plants that I grew from seed, and then I had some extra, so actually I probably grew about 40, and I gave some of them away because you always want to have a few extra plants. I grew about 25 pepper plants under these lights as well, all from seed, and then I also started some of my watermelon, cucumber, squash, things like that as well. And I also grew a ton of flowers for my front flower bed. I grew some zinnias and a few different kinds of marigolds because I decided I want to have flowers in my flower bed, but I didn't want to buy them. So I grew seeds for those, and they turned out really well. And then I also grew a bunch of marigolds to put into my garden to help attract pollinators and detract certain pests that don't like marigolds. So I also grew a ton of flowers as well, starting those from seed. So even though it takes a little bit of an investment up front to start the grow rack, it's definitely worth it in the long run because, I bought this and all the lights and stuff back in December or January, and but now I get to use them, for years to come, and I don't have to buy that again, and I get to save a lot of money not having to purchase starter plants and things like that for my garden. So, on to building this rack. So putting the rack together is super easy. It'll take you 10-15 minutes because there aren't really, you might need like a little mallet to put it together, but I did it with, I think I used like a hammer or something to kind of stick it into place, but I didn't want everything so stuck that it was too hard to move. So I put it together myself. It took me like 10 to 15 minutes. So you put the shelf together. Like I said, I'll put a link to the shelf below. This one was $80. The 3-foot one was $40. So you can choose based on the size of your garden and what you're gonna need. And then the next step is the lights, right? Like, what lights do you use for a rack like this? Well, there are lots of lights on the market, marketed as grow lights, and I'm sure they work well. But when I was searching for what kinds of lights to use, I realized that the grow lights were much more expensive. Now you can get light bulbs, right, that go into some sort of light fixture, so that's a little bit less expensive. But you can't grow as much with those. You kind of need a lot of them. So I ended up purchasing these lights like this. I purchased, these are shop lights, and these are what I use to grow my vegetables. Now, you can't just use any shop light, right? There are two things you need to pay attention to when you're purchasing lights if you want to use them for growing vegetables. And the first one is the color temperature. And you need something that's between 4,500 and about 6,500, and that's what mimics daylight. I am not a scientist in any way whatsoever, but that's what I have read, and that's what I used as guidance when I bought these. And I grew a lot of plants very successfully using them, so I do know that they work. I'll put a link to these ones that I purchased. I purchased an 8-pack, and then I went back and bought like 4 more of these. And they were really economical. I believe the 8-pack was maybe around $80 or $90, but for 8 of these 4-foot long, and these are LEDs, so LEDs last quite a long time. They put off a lot of light, but they don't consume a lot of energy. So you'll save a lot more money on the electricity bill going with LEDs rather than fluorescents. And they last longer than fluorescents as well. So these are LEDs, they are 4 foot long. And the other measure, aside from the color temperature, and that's the Kelvin, you'll see a K behind that one. So you want 4,500 to 6,500 Kelvin. And then the other measure you want to look at are the lumens. And essentially that's the amount of light they actually put off. So the higher the lumens, the brighter the light and the more light they're putting off. And essentially the further away from the plants you can have them. So lumens, you want something that's 12 to 1500s or more, or higher. These are pretty potent. I believe they are, let's see, the wattage is 36 watts. Now, if you're looking at an incandescent or fluorescent bulb, the equivalent is a lot higher than that, but these are LEDs, so they don't use as much energy. So 36 watts, the color temperature of these are between 6,000 and 6,500, and as far as lumens that they give out, it says, so these are actually 40 watts, sorry, these are 40 watts, and they give off 130 lumens per watt. So you can do the math there. Let's see. So that's what, about 5,000? Yeah, look at my thinking face, sorry. So I believe that's like 5,200 lumens that these are giving off. So that's quite bright. And like I said, I use these with my spring, all of my spring cool weather and summer crops, and they did great. So I'll give you guys some pictures so you can see the lights all lit up with the plants and everything. So you have to take my word for it. So attaching these to the shelf, right? Like if you look over at my 3-foot shelf, I put rubber bands around the ends of these because they don't come with anything to attach them because they're meant to be like attached to a ceiling. So I put rubber bands around the ends, and then I use like some old bendy rollers that I had because I didn't use them anymore, and I wanted to use something I had in the house. And so that's what I used on that. But on these, I was a little smarter and I just used some string. So around the end of them, I put 2 rubber bands because that'll be a little bit stronger than 1 holding it together. So I put 2 rubber bands around the end of this, and then I took a string, and I'd be careful with these, I don't want to knock them around too much. Took a string and hooked that through. See that? And then I attached it to the shelf and just tied it. So let me move my camera a little bit closer so you can see that. Okay, so Okay, get the camera close enough to see. And so then I just attached it here. So I just tie it to the rail of the thing here. So it's attached, and knot it, and that's it. And so I'm gonna do the same thing on the other end, and that'll be it. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and attach this other one. Same way. Okay, and then I have one more to attach up here at the top. So get that going. Do the same thing. So the lights also come with these cords, these cables that, the lights come with these cables that connect them to each other, and also power cords where you can plug them in. So I like to connect them kind of in sets. So I have like the bottom two rows connected together, and then this one down here is by itself. Oh, you can't see that. So the bottom two rows are connected together. This one is by itself, and this one is a shop light that I actually bought at Walmart. And it was maybe about $15, but I decided to go with these because I was able to buy a package of them where I could get more for my money. But, so I have this one here, and then I have these rows connected to each other. Mainly because I have the top two rows connected to each other. And that's mainly because you can, most likely when I'm first starting my seedlings for spring, I'm not going to need all of these lights on at the same time. So I like having them on separate plugs so that I can just plug in the bottom two rows and so on. So this guy is plugged in here. All right, so now we have the shelf all put together. So let's turn it on. All right, it's all lit up. All of our shelves are ready to grow plants. And so, all right, so that light being on was really messing with my camera. But yeah, so all of the plants are ready. All the shelf is ready for me to put my seedlings on and get anything I need to get started. I think the next thing, I've already started my onions on my other shelf. The next thing I'll probably start some more cool weather things, maybe some cabbage, things like that. I already have some growing out in my garden, but once those are ready, I'm gonna wanna replace them. I'm only using a couple beds during the cool weather months so that I can let the other beds kind of rest and get those ready for the spring. So I'll probably do some starts for things like that I'll wanna replace. But that's it. It's simple, easy. You could probably get this shelf built in under an hour. And so having this 4-foot shelf with 5 shelves. Now keep in mind, I do use the bottom shelf. I have lights down under the bottom. And so I put those plants like on the floor. So I use all 5 of these so that I can have things here. And then I use the top usually for storage. But I am able to grow a lot of plants here. And so this whole setup, lights plus the shelf, was about $160, under $200 for this whole setup. Now keep in mind, yes, that is a decent amount of money. It's nothing to sneeze at, but I had to do this. I invested last year, so this year I don't have to buy any of it. It's already here, ready to go. And if you're looking at that smaller shelf, the 3-foot one, and then the smaller package of lights, I think I used an 8-pack of lights there. This one I used an 8-pack, and then I bought another 4-pack. So the package of 8 lights was still about $80. The shelf itself was $40. So for that one, you're under $150 to actually probably about $120 to get that one set up. So, but you have the lights that you need. You can grow all of your plants from seed. That means you're not spending $3, $4, $5 each for each of your starts. And if you have a garden of any size, then that adds up really quickly. And like I mentioned, I also grew flowers for my flower bed. And those can be really expensive to buy at the garden center too. But when you can grow them from seed, you're saving that money as well. So thank you for tuning into my channel. If you found this content helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe. I will definitely have more content, especially as the months progress and I get ready to start my seeds and just do other things out in the garden. But share, like, subscribe,